welcome back to Cindy's Library. This is Cindy, and today I am going to be doing the Victorian Literature Journey Tag, which apparently was created by Scully Dandying about the books. I'll try to remember to link the original tag below. It's very similar to the Shakespeare Journey Tag. So let's get to it. What was my first experience reading Victorian literature and how was it? That actually is a very, very good question. Because I read a lot that was adjacent to Victorian literature in many ways that helped me be ready for Victorian literature. Discovered Jane Austen in my early 20s. I discovered the delights of Edwardian literature, especially children's literature, fairly early on. Same with American literature, particularly Louisa May Alcott, and of course Anne of Green Gables. But none of those are strictly Victorian. Aside from things which may have been assigned from English anthologies in school, we read Great Expectations in 9th or 10th grade, and I remember enjoying it but hating both endings. And then I did David Copperfield, which in 12th grade as a free read, which I enjoyed better, but it obviously didn't connect with me enough to really continue. A Christmas Carol, don't remember when I first came across that, besides, of course, A Mickey's Christmas Carol. But I read that fairly young, but beyond that, my first real Victorian literature, after bouncing off Jane Eyre, was probably about 10 years ago, I want to say. Maybe 12 years ago now. Sherlock Holmes. Nothing like a good mystery to pull you through. So, I read the complete works about Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle, probably the world's most famous detective. Not that all of them are strictly Victorian, but the early ones certainly are, and quite enjoyed them. In fact, I need to go back to them one of these days. Then, several years later, I tried Jane Eyre again and did not bounce off of it. And shortly thereafter, so that was probably 8 and then maybe 6 years ago, I read The Moonstone as part of a detective class. And then I read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, which I enjoyed. So I already had piqued some interest in Victorian literature and even had some tendencies that helped with that. But as a main Victorian reader, I'm fairly late in a lot of ways. Too, has the reading of a Victorian book ever brought you to tears? If so, tell us more. No. I'm not really a crier for movies or books. I rarely cry about things. So, no, I can't say that I've really cried. I will say there have been some that really moved me. I'm looking at you, Jane Eyre. Number 3, are there people who have played a significant role in your Victorian literature journey? Yes, I have to say yes. And it is Booktube. It's all your fault. Thanks especially to people like Kate Howe and Katie at Books and Things, and Tori at Good Strong Words, and Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine, who introduced me more to Victorian literature. It's all your fault, and I thank you so much for it because it has been such a wonderful journey. Number 4, do you have a favorite film or TV adaptation of a Victorian book? What about one you would like to see made? I'm going to have to be fairly typical and say BBC North and South with Richard Armitage. Aside from A Christmas Carol, that's probably one of the first ones that I saw and loved. As for one I wish would be made, I can't see any reason why the Barsetshire Chronicles couldn't be completely done. I know they did the Warden and Towers of Barset together for one, and they've done Dr. Thorne. Not sure if the others have been done, though. Certainly not all as a continuous thing, which I think totally should be done. A miniseries is exactly what the Barsetshire Chronicles needs. Let's see, which character in Victorian literature most resembles you or you identify with most? That is a hard one. I'm not sure I really connect with any of them. Not like that. Not in the way that I have some connections to the March girls, for example, from Little Women. 6, do you have a favorite moment, scene, or line from Victorian literature? Tell us about it or read it to us. Oh, I love Jane's response to Mr. Rochester in Jane Eyre. Again, fairly typical, but what can I say? Lots of people like it for a reason. So let's see, 7. Does any Victorian literature intimidate you? If so, what and why? Not on length. I have read long works before. Count of Monte Cristo, Les Miserables. So not based on length. I could see being intimidated by subject matter. I could also see the style putting me off. For example, James Joyce, I am not sure is for me for both of those reasons. 8. What tips would you give to someone early on their Victorian literature journey? I would say audiobooks are a great option, especially for some of the writers like Dickens or Gaskell, who wrote in serials and wrote in such a way to be read because they anticipated as a family got hold of a serial, someone in the family would read the latest chapter or chapters to the rest of the family. Another thing to keep in mind is you don't have to start big. You can start small. You do have to be careful with Victorian children's literature that is not overly didactic, but some that is not too didactic exists, like The Lame Prince is a good example of that one. There's poetry or plays or shorter works. not every Victorian and not even the same Victorian author always wrote huge tomes that are between 500 and 1,000 pages. Even Charles Dickens has some shorter works. I'd also say go by genre. If you love mysteries, maybe you should check out The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins or some Sherlock Holmes. If you love fantasy, George MacDonald. If you love science fiction, that one actually may be slightly harder, but even so, yeah, H.G. Wells counts for that. He does. If you want something more cozy, they have that. If you want suspense, you've got Mary Elizabeth Braddon. If you want more adventure, hey, Treasure Island might be just up your alley. So look for the genres that you already enjoy and see what the Victorians wrote in them. You might find a new favorite. What tips? Oh, I already did that one. What is your top recommended read for others of Victorian literature? A Christmas Carol is a wonderful place to start with Dickens, giving all the feel and spirit of Dickens and Christmas in a short little package. For something longer, but not too long, Jane Eyre really is an excellent place to start. First-person narrative, Jane just pulls you in with her, and it's a really engaging story as well. Number 10, tag people. So I am not sure entirely who has done this or not yet. I know a lot of people have done it already. So if you have not done it yet and you would like to, consider yourself tagged. How has your Victober been going? I'd love to hear all about it. Thank you so much for stopping by. Well, we did this little booktube tag. Really appreciate it. So, till next time, I hope we all stay safe and healthy, and as always, happy reading!